want to start with a quote from our guest that defines him both professionally and personally. Breaking bread together is one of our most social human activities, and I'm convinced that food is the key to knowing a place and its people. Leon Brunson is working to create a vibrant food culture here in Tallahassee, and he has invited us into his restaurant and his kitchen to show us how. And a word of warning, don't watch this piece if you're hungry. There's some amazing food to be seen.
When you get involved into a place's food, you learn about their culture, you learn about the people who are preparing the food, and those take on a life of themselves that can be passed down. I feel like that's been the sense with this location as well. Mickey's Lakeside Cafe was its own restaurant, which then turned into KB Kitchen, which would have had its own life. And my goal is to then almost use those past lives of the restaurant to get the past clientele and then my current clientele.
Do you have a favorite dish or something that's really challenging to prepare? Just share a story about being a chef.
I think the most difficult thing I've ever had to prepare has been sushi. I worked at a sushi bar for a few months. It was a part of my very first restaurant, and the first couple of weeks they had me in the sushi bar just frying sushi. But as I watched the sushi chefs and saw how much precision it took and eventually started doing it myself, that was the most challenging thing I've ever had to do. Something I wish I was incredibly proficient at, but I understand it's like you gotta spend a lot more time at it.
I want you to think of 5 of your dishes pictured on your Instagram and talk about the favorite dishes that you make.
One of the pictures from my Instagram is a picture with me in a selfie with biscuits. This is one of my favorite buttermilk biscuit recipes that I learned when I worked at The Pearl. That's one of the dishes. I've made oxtails before. What I did was instead of just general oxtails, I made an oxtail pot pie. Recently, I've been exploring wings as I'm looking for this protein-heavy, light, summery snack. I've done some great pork belly before and pork shoulder with a nice crispy crunch on the outside and this wonderful pork flavor. And I've also done a lobster taco that I worked with a chef from Maine, Jackson Jordan, Gary Jordan's son, and he shared with me his lobster roll recipe. And that lobster roll recipe we ended up putting in a taco, and it was a delicious taco. I mean, the texture, flavor, coolness, heat, beautiful.
I need you to explain how somebody who studied neuroscience at FSU turned around and became a chef.
My dad had a brain aneurysm in 2014, but he had a full recovery. And at the time, I was a line cook. I had just finished culinary school, and I wasn't really sure if I wanted to spend the rest of my life spending weekends in a kitchen, not having holidays for family, being restricted to travel. It was a commitment that I felt a lot of chefs were warning me, you're gonna get into this field, but it's gonna be a very difficult one. So I selected a field that would give me a nice steady income, that I could also learn what happened to my dad and be able to use that science knowledge and find out is he gonna be healthy. But fortunately for us, he had a great recovery. So when I graduated Florida State, I would never forget, I walked the stage, everyone was going crazy, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I just remember it was on the stage that I realized it. So I said no to a potential directed individual study lab that would lead into my master's and PhD. It just wasn't what I enjoyed, but it was very clear where my heart was at.
Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to be able to serve y'all along with the rest of my house to do this chop competition.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What was the most challenging part of this meal?
I would say the most challenging is the time management.
Yeah.
Getting everything, trying to make it.
There were some talented kids there. The Boys Town event was a ton of fun. It was not an organization I have physically been a part of. I donated a private dinner service to Boys Town before, but this was my first time actually going and seeing the process. And I gotta say, that opportunity to judge a chopped competition was incredible. Would you have ever put pineapple in your marinara sauce?
I probably wouldn't have, but now I probably will every time I make it.
Chicken's nice and hot, flavorful. Yeah, big fan.
A lot of these kids, this might be their 8th or 9th placement. And Boys Town is doing something where they can actually make these kids feel like this organization or this placement stands out from another placement. And to do that with food, and everyone kind of understands what Chopped is, and you had a variety of different things.
You know, I almost prefer the olives as decoration.
Yeah. The most memorable dish I remember having was this cocoa mug. It was like a hot chocolate, it was a dessert, and on the side you had this beautifully painted like chocolate paint, and as you drank the hot chocolate you could like lick the mug. It was delicious, it was fun.
This is wonderful, this is great.
Thank you.
I began donating my services to a variety of nonprofits around Tallahassee as people began valuing my name in the dinners and the services that I provided. But now I'm 100% committed to Second Harvest just because I align so strongly with like what Second Harvest is doing. I like the direction that we're going in terms of where we're building and the ability to actually make an impact and help with food insecurity in Northwest Florida. And I mean, that to me is invaluable. So I never imagined an opportunity to do that, but like now I'm like, yeah, sign me up, anything that I can do, absolutely.
Talk about what you do when you're not at the stove cooking.
I think where I spend my most time outside of cooking is this game called Dance Dance Revolution. I've been playing the game for 18 years now, and this game has been a huge part of my life. I have traveled all over the world. I've been to Japan twice. In 2020, I ranked 7th in the world. This year, I finished 7th as well. So that's where all my time goes. And I wish I could really connect with more people on the emotion this game makes me feel. The restaurant has been funded by a lot of these dance game community members believing in me because of the success that I had when I was like 14 playing this game. That's where I spend my spare time, but I wish I had a little bit more of a relaxing hobby. Aside from that, I do play saxophone. This will actually be the first time I've talked to Tallahassee about playing saxophone. No one knows that I play saxophone, really. And a lot of my spare time is related with cooking, whether it be starting the restaurant or Second Harvest.
Do you see yourself as a chef in a really big city with highly rated restaurants one day? Why have you stayed in Tallahassee?
I don't really want to leave here. I know a lot of people are like, go do big things. I'm like, why can't the big things happen here? There's so much about the city itself that I enjoy. I love the people here. I love the history here. Feels more genuine here. Feels like I've got more support. I love the city. I really, really, really love the city. There's so much. There's so much.